Hello, marry me. So this is gonna be a video about Pastel Goth. Now within the regular Gothic community, there's a lot of people that just hate Pastel Goth, and I felt that I wanted to give my 2 cents about it. Now, what is Pastel Goth? Well, basically, Pastel Goth is a clothing style. It's a fashion style that mixes cute elements and pastel colors with goth. So you might have somebody just decked out in light turquoise with skulls all around. Or there might be a lot of cute pink flowers with skulls in the middle, or yeah, a typical staple of pastel goth is pastel colored flower headbands with spikes. And you can say that it pastel goth shares a lot with creepy cute, and a good example to get just a hint of what it could be would be Monster High. A lot of the characters there is wearing what I would call pastel goth. Now, why are goths so up in arms about this? Well, to some people they say that, but pastel goth that's just a fashion style, so it isn't goth. And I would say that they do have a point. Goth is so much more than what you wear, and it's like the same way as the Gothic Lolita, the Japanese clothing style. Most Gothic Lolitas do not consider themselves to be goth. It is a fashion style, and if they belong to any lifestyle, they consider themselves to be Lolitas, not goths. However, a lot of those that are pastel goths do consider themselves to be goths. Here's the point. I think it's a huge problem within the Gothic community with these so-called elder goths who say that no, if you do this and this and this and this, that makes you goth, but if you do that and that and that, that makes you non-goth. Now, to those that criticize this concept of elder goths dictating what is goth and not, some say, but if you call goth everything, then it seems to be have any meaning, then you might as well say humans. Yeah, but here's the point. Nobody is saying goth is everything. That's clearly a definition of what goth is. However, that definition is pretty fuzzy. And looking at somebody who wears pastel goth, I can definitely see goth. It's just that it's a bit different color scheme than what you would normally expect. And I think that far too many goths these days are more concerned with trying to be a clique and um, trying to exclude people to feel more unique themselves than to actually be goth. Because, like I said, goth isn't one element. Some people say, but it's about the music. If you don't know who Sisters of Mercy are, if you don't know who Thursday and the Banshees are, and I know I butchered that name, I just can't say those sounds. If you don't know these bands that started it, then you are not goth. If you don't listen to goth music, then you're not goth. And I say, so a deaf person can't be goth? It, it doesn't make sense. Goth is so many things, and no, it was not just the music style that created goth. It was part music, part uh, basically the Gothic literature of the 1900s and similar literature nowadays. It basically, if you look at it, there have been people like this almost at all times. For example, the group around Lord Byron, they would be considered goth if they lived today. They were people that dressed eccentrically, had eccentric taste, and that loved to tell one another horror stories. I mean, they would be goth if you would look at it today. So that there's so many things that make up goth. So to say that somebody is goth because of this, is not goth because of this, that doesn't make sense. Now to bring back a bit the concept of, but if you say everything is goth, then it seems to have a meaning. Yeah, but let's look at it this way. Let's look at a cake. So there's a lot of things that you expect a cake to have: flour, sugar, uh, milk, cream, all of these things. We all have a pretty good idea in our head what's a cake. But you can change that around quite a bit and it's still being a cake. Let's say you are lactose intolerant, so you don't use milk in that cake. You use cocoa milk instead. It's still a cake, it's not a share. You can all agree a share is not a cake. Unless it's a cake shaped as a share, which is awesome. But a cake is not a share, and a share is not a cake. However, a cake that doesn't have milk doesn't stop being a cake. Or like with me, I'm allergic to sugar. So when I bake cake, I have to find alternative. I use sweetened things like, for example, rice milk, which is sweet in itself. I use honey or stevia to sweeten cakes, and it's still a cake. The same way you can have a goth that doesn't really have that great an interest in typical gothic music. They can still be goths if they have uh, if that's what's inside them. Because I think that the most important thing is if somebody is goth or not is, do they deep inside have that appreciation of the darker things, of aroma and seeing the beauty in the darker things? Is that inside their hearts? And it doesn't matter what music they like or what clothing they like. I mean, I have a friend who's goth, but he doesn't dress goth. He listens to the music. He definitely likes aesthetics. He enjoys the gothic literature genre. He appreciates the darker things in life. He has every aspect of being a goth, but he doesn't dress like it. He's suddenly magically not a goth because that one aspect of being goth is missing. And it's the same thing with the pastel goths. Now, quite a few pastel goths have no interest in calling themselves goths. It's they are just into this clothing style and that's it. And if so, why hate it? I mean, it's not something you're interested in, it's something they're interested in. Let them dress however they want. And then, of course, you have the people that want to argue schematics. But then they should call it Pastel Gothic, not Pastel Goth, because, oh, just give it a break. It doesn't matter. They want to call it Pastel Goth, have at it. And but this is the point. If somebody who dresses pastel goth wants to call themselves goth, I have no problem accepting them as such, because they still fit within that idea of what is goth. It's an appreciation of the darker things. They're still decked out in skulls and bats, and they still wear alternative clothing. They still have that touch of the dark in them. It's just that their clothing are light blue, pink, and light green, and so on, instead of being black and purple. if accepting pastel goths as goths is not saying, ah, but goth is everything. No, it's not. And here's the point. I don't give a rat's ass what so-called elder gods feel or not feel. It couldn't interest me in the least if what I do and how I consider myself to be God meets with their approval, because they can take their approval and shove it up somewhere that the sun doesn't shine. Because, I mean, there was a long period where you say, oh, but if you shop at Hot Topic, then you're not a God. Because, yeah, if you happen to find a spiked color at Hot Topic, then you're not a God. If you find it somewhere else, then you're a God. It's not. Being a goth isn't as fragile as that. Being a goth is something you are inside. And as such, it also has to have room for personality. That does not mean saying that goth is absolutely everything you want it to be. Because clearly goth is about the darker things in life. About seeing the beauty in darker things in life. About the romantic notion of the world being than more than this matter we see around us. And I'm not really just thinking about the religious thought there, but that basically to a God the idea of the condemned man sharing that final passionate kiss with his wife before he goes to the gallows. That is extremely beautiful. It's still terrible, it's still tragic, it's still something that brings tears to one's eyes. But it's beautiful because it's so intense, it's so real. And the color of the clothing you wear doesn't have anything to do with that. Now, and I mean, there was a period where one of these so-called elder gods said that no, wearing brown, that makes you non-goth. Yeah, of course. When I put on my brown leather jacket, or the brown pair of pants I have, I automatically stop being a goth until I take it off. It's like an anti-goth spray. That sort of thing is just bullshit to me. And the same thing with pastel goth. I feel that if that isn't your cup of tea, don't wear it, but don't go ballistic over people wearing it and calling themselves goth, because goth isn't a protected term that only this little frame of goth royalty have the right to comment on. And if you don't fit into their little box of what goth is, then you should never use the term. That's just, to me, that is actually offensive against the very individualistic movement that goth rose up of. And you can say people don't have an understanding of the music at all, but here's the point. If you put goth in a little box and say everything that doesn't fit into this little box isn't goth, then it's you that doesn't understand the music that goth came from. So what if one who is a pastel goth doesn't know all of these old goth bands? It doesn't matter. What matters is, do they have a sense of and an appreciation of the darker things? Do they consider themselves gods? If these two things apply, then I would consider them gods. Does that mean that I wouldn't necessarily dress as they do? No. I like some aspects of pastel goth. I like the creepy cute. And I love to, for example, wear a pair of earrings with skulls with big pink bows of them and so on. But a woman in my size, if I were to go around decked out all in pastel, I would look like a giant baby. But if that's what I feel is a way to express themselves, I see no problem with it. And arguing in whatever not those that see it just as a fashion thing should call it pastel goth or pastel gothic. I just see no point in that argument. If I want to call it pastel goth, where's the problem? So yeah, I think that the gothic community needs to calm the fuck down when it comes to pastel goth. It's very popular right now, it is going to die down eventually, and you are going to have just a few people that dress like that. And I agree, clothing style alone doesn't make somebody goth. A few years ago, goth was very popular in the mainstream, and and the various clothing and jewelry stores were just overflowing with skulls and crosses in graveyards, and it was a great time to stock up on some cheap gothic jewelry. And then it died down. All of the people that followed those fashion trends, they weren't goth. It meant nothing to them. It was just following the fashion trend. It's just like I think it was last year, or was it the year before? I don't follow fashion trends. The Union Jack was extremely popular. So a lot of people had Union Jack purses and earrings and scarves and whatnot. It doesn't mean that they were really pro England, because it didn't really mean anything. It's just a fashion statement. The same as those Shambhala bracelets that's so popular now. They are Buddhist and sometimes also Shintoist symbol. They are prayer beads, basically. But for most people that wear them, they have no other meaning than being pretty and in fashion. So, yeah, just wearing gothic clothing doesn't make you goth. I agree. But if somebody who wears gothic clothing and came to goth that way, through clothing, starts to feel that they are goth, they want to identify as goth, who has the right to deny them? Now, I think that when you're part of a lifestyle, such as the Gothic lifestyle, it is a good thing to study a bit about that lifestyle truths. I think it's a good thing to learn a bit about these bands, about the early movement, and so on and so forth. But I don't think that knowledge is a must to be able to call yourself God. It's the same as with paganism. I think it is a good thing to read about Gareth Gardner and the early aspects of paganism, both the old societies that the new movement is inspired by and the pioneers of modern paganism. I think it's a good idea to read about it, but it doesn't make you non-pagan if you haven't done that work. So, yeah, I have no problem with Pastelga whatsoever, and I think that it's silly to be upset about it. If I've seen so many goths go out on rages on Pastelga, and I just say, if you don't want to wear it, don't wear it. I think it's pretty cute. I think that if you have the right body shape and facial shape and so on, it can look amazing, and it can look amazingly creepy as well. Because here's the point, mixing cute with creepy accents the creepy. That's why you have in so many horror movies and creepy computer games and so on, you have the little girl that is usually the biggest monster of them all, because mixing the cuteness of this little girl in pigtails and lace everywhere, her seemingly cute and innocent looking persona, mixing that with knives and supernatural powers and murdering people, that just accents the darker aspects. And as such, I think that Pastel Goth done right can look extremely nice and creepy. And when it's not done right, it can still look extremely cute. And I'll take skulls and spikes and bats in whatever color. I don't care. So yeah, I feel that people should worry more about how they themselves are goth, what their interests are in the goth community, instead of trying to judge who is and should not be goth. I feel that if somebody feel that they are goth and wants to use that term about themselves, then nobody has the right to tell them that they are not. Hope you have enjoyed this video. Have a great day, and blessed be.